I'm more interested to know about Saji becoming CTO of Mobile Heartbeat. But they don't need to look at the phone where that button is.
Yeah. So adding more capabilities is much easier to do.
And what would be your advice?
We actually took a old laptop and put it together and put that on the shopping cart, and that's kind of how that actually worked.
Congratulations, Saji, for your new and exciting platform, Banyan. And you are successfully rolled out for 3 new customers. And one of the customers is actually switching from the previous version. Yeah. That's completely a new world for a product is coming very new to the market. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, Binu. Yeah, it is a defining moment because a lot of these projects, rewrite projects fail because you don't really have a reason to do it, and halfway through you're wondering, okay, why are we even rebuilding the same product, same features? Some people get bored, but we were persistent and we were able to achieve it, and we were able to actually convert an existing customer who were using our previous platform to the new one. And the really nice thing is that there aren't a lot of issues or missing features, because that's always a challenge with legacy platforms, because there are so many features that you built over the years, and how not everybody even remembers what features are in there, and it's tribal knowledge, right? With the old timers. That's kind of. But we were able to actually capture almost 99.9% use cases. So that's
a huge achievement. And also, so the most important aspect, the user interface experience, you try to keep it, because they're using over the years, right? Maybe 5 years, 6 years. They don't know but they don't need to look at the phone where that button is.
Yeah, that is very important. How do you actually modernize it without actually changing the user interface drastically so that users don't complain? And that's kind of what happened. So we were able to learn from the previous experiences from the users, and we were able to improve it. So, which is really good. I mean, it's an improvement. I mean, that's a very good point, Binu. Changing as part of modernizing, rewriting, you actually rethink the entire user interface, and you're like, why can't we just redo the entire thing? But you're punishing the users
because business won't like surprises.
Yeah,
they want to keep business as usual, but they want new things.
Yeah. So that was just telling them, and we had to do something new too, right? So you cannot just tell them this is the same platform, but it's in the cloud. Users don't care whether it's in the cloud or not. So how do you actually give them something new as well? And so we were able to do that. We were able to actually keep the same kind of features, capabilities, but give it a new life. So that actually worked very well.
Yeah, great. And I'm more interested to know about Saji becoming CTO of Mobile Heartbeat. How did that journey happen? Can you just give me a brief? This is a very interesting journey, I believe. Will you please give a brief?
Hopefully it's interesting. I don't know how interesting it is. It was a long journey. So I started my technology journey in Chennai, right? So I worked there for a year. It was actually a US-based company, right? And then I got transferred from that company to their parent company in California.
Okay.
And that was the time when e-commerce, internet was booming.
Yes,
so I
2000, yes.
2000s, right?
Y2K.
Y2K, internet, all those kind of things are coming together. So I actually joined the e-commerce journey, right? And there I found, this guy found me rather, right? So his name is Jack Mark, and he's my mentor. So we kind of met, and he wanted to implement internet in the retail store, right?
Okay.
So I was in California, and I moved to Boston to work for him, right? And what he did was he actually implemented some self-checkout. So when you go to a store and you buy stuff, and you go to the checkout counter and somebody scans the things for you and you pay. So what he wanted to do was that you actually go to the store, you actually buy your whatever you want to buy, and then you will scan it yourself. Right? Okay. And at the end, you simply walk out of the store, right? And your credit card will be billed. So that's kind of our the first product, and that was like ahead of its time. So we implemented that at a big retail chain, right? and that product actually worked very well. So it's like a self-checkout product. It was very innovative, right? So like, and that time we actually took a like old laptop and put it together and put that on the shopping cart, and that's kind of how that actually worked. Then from there, so he moved on, and then I stayed with that company for a while. Then he started another company, and I joined with him, and we together founded what now became Mobile Heartbeat.
Okay.
So the original name of the company was Oyster.
Oyster. Okay.
So that is the original name, and so that company, what we actually did, created this product that can actually make patient discharge easier and faster.
Okay.
And it was a project done for UK. So UK has they have a hospital chain that is managed by the government, NHS. So we did the project for them. So it came from like a friend of his wanted to have a way to make patient discharge faster so that the hospitals can actually get the patients out and get the new patients in operational efficiency, and that's kind of what we targeted. Okay. And then it evolved to become the product that is today.
So what was that year which you first invented that hospital checkout process? It was in 2000?
For the hospital, that was 2009, I would say.
Okay.
Long time
That's
ago.
too early.
Yeah, that is too early too. Yeah. So
okay. All right. So now you have a product, and how is the customer acquisition what happened? Because you had one hospital initially. It was just from reference. Do you had any sales team? How the organization grown up?
Yeah, so it's the same story of every startup. So you start with something. So we started with the UK product, and we kind of developed something. And that time we knew that what we started with the web, that was like e-commerce, the web app and all. And we kind of knew the right thing to do is to go to the mobile. That's when BlackBerry became popular. BlackBerry phones, and iPhone just came out. Android was not out yet. So we realized it might be better for us to be on that platform. Okay. And iPhone hasn't come out. BlackBerry was kind of dying out that time. And that's where Windows CE devices, Microsoft had this Windows CE devices. We actually targeted Windows CE devices, and we actually started experimenting with that. So we implemented, you have this collaborative checklist. So I can check off and you can check off. So the way it works is when a patient is ready to be discharged, each person responsible for that patient needs to check off. Like the doctor need to check off, and the pharmacy need to check off. And typically what happens is one person wouldn't check off, and the entire patient discharge would be delayed.
Exactly.
So what we did was we implemented this checklist application where everyone can see who is checking off things, right? And there was this coordinator who can actually look at this thing and say, okay, doctor, you haven't checked off yet, right? And then we implemented something like you can call the doctor or message the doctor to say, hey, can you please check off, right? And that we realized it's better for it to be mobile, right? So we actually moved to mobile. So mobile that time was a new thing, right? So that's where when we actually named the company Mobile Heartbeat, because mobile was not new, right? So it was so new, right? So that's kind of the company was born. Then from there, we became a communication software. The checklist feature went away, and the communication feature where when somebody is delayed in doing the checkoff, you call them, you text them, you message them. That feature kind of came to the top, and that's kind of how the product today was born. And then we actually we brought it to US and we implemented it in iPhone. Okay. And we tried to be always on the cutting edge of things, and that was we always kind of ride the new wave of what, like in the technology space, whatever is cutting edge. So that's kind of what helped us.
Okay, that's interesting. And it's still that checkout process is a nightmare for any hospital. Even now, the operation is going to take hours and hours.
Yeah.
And now that's become one of the flagship USB you have now.
Yeah.
So then, what about the product evolution? So how many hospitals we had in last maybe 15, 20 years? And then how did you thought of building a new one? So a new version of the product.
Yeah.
And what was the real thought process behind that?
Yeah, so what we had that time, again, I mean, that technology that time, like we were talking about almost like 14 years ago, right? That was the technology with on-prem, multiple servers, load balancing, Java, J2E, or C, or Microsoft ASP technologies and things like that. And that's kind of what we built. At that time, it was the latest and greatest technology. So we built the application on top of that. It is to be installed on-prem. And so you'll take your servers and install it on-prem, and it worked very well. And our first success came from Yale New Haven. It's an Ivy League hospital, university hospital, and we were able to deploy there. And we really had a mentor there to help us design the product. And we co-developed really the product, because we are a software company. We don't know much about how hospitals work, and they were a really good hospital. And we worked together to actually develop the product, right? And then with the success of that, we start getting more customers. So what we realized, what we did with our company and our product is we positioned it as kind of like targeting the large healthcare organizations who are looking to bring efficiency into their operational operations.
More complex operations.
That's where we really shine. For a small hospital where you can just like call somebody, like you can just talk to them, it doesn't really work very well. But
people can even recognize us when you are in a very small space.
Yeah.
But in large hospital, you don't even know who's coming and going. Yeah.
Exactly, right. Especially with large hospital chains with buildings or facilities in different cities, right?
Yes.
And they all need to kind of communicate with each other. That's kind of where we shine. And that's where HCA is Hospital Corporation of America, and they are the number one for-profit healthcare organization in the US. And they have around 180 something hospitals, right? It's like 180, big hospitals they have. So we implemented there, and they actually acquired us, right? So now we are actually a fully owned subsidiary of HCA. And we are based in Boston, and HCA is based in Nashville.
The only subsidiary that focuses on the software.
Yeah, we are the only software development company on HCA, which is a good thing. And now we are fully deployed at HCA. We are doing very well. We have around 300,000 monthly active users. It's not the total number of users would be almost 1 million. This is the active users, right? So
and these users are actually concurrent
users.
So that's very tough situation for any application to deal with. Okay. All right, and coming back to this new version of the product, it's called Banyan.
Yeah.
So what makes you name it Banyan? So you have any reason behind it?
So the Banyan platform is just before COVID, we started thinking about our platform, although that time when we actually built it was new. I mean, it has become older, right? And it became hard to maintain. It became very hard to actually attract new talent, new engineers, new developers to actually build on the platform. Anything any feature that we want to build onto it start taking a much longer time, mainly because we are a software made to help patients, right? And we are not Spotify, right? And it's we cannot take any risks. I mean, our software needs to be 99% bug free, right? You can have small bugs and all, but nothing critical, nothing major, and uptime needs to be 100%, right? So any new feature that we develop needs to be solid, right? And that kind of like then we realized that the platform we are not able to actually build as fast as we could, and plus that's where just before the COVID, I mean, that's kind of where the cloud started becoming, more. And like I said, we always want to be on the cutting edge, right? So we decided, okay, it's time for us to move to the cloud. And then we said, okay, should we actually move to the cloud, or like just shift and lift, or should we reinvent the entire product? And we decided to reinvent, right? So what we built Banyan it's more than a product, it's a platform. So the way we actually built it's a healthcare platform where you can actually build applications on top of, right? So it's a layered platform, and it's secure, so that it actually you can actually support in the healthcare needs, and it has anything that you need to support mobile and web application. So it's built like that. And the reason why we named it Banyan is like the tree, right? It has roots like that, that can actually span across, and that's kind of the way we are envisioning Banyan to be, very much a rooted system where you can build applications on top of. And that's what's actually happening now. So we actually completed rebuilding our previous platform. Now we are moving on to, okay, what else can we build on top of this platform? And it is it's quite possible now because, like I said, in the previous product, it was just a product, just one monolith, right? And adding features to it was extremely hard. But this is more of a platform. So it's like, distributed platform. So adding more capabilities is much easier to do, right? Because we have the foundation built.
Yes.
That's kind of where we are going.
Okay, excellent. And coming back to this platform, why platform exists, the clinical communication. So in an operations perspective, how critical this communication protocol and whatever the communication implementation you have so far? I mean, how the user is experiencing in terms of improving their day-to-day experience and also patient experience, user experience. There are a lot of things going on. Now you have 15 plus years of learning in it.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting. Until you have it, it's so hard. Until you have it, you don't realize what you're missing. That's kind of the situation with our product, right? So it's one of those things. It's until you actually had a mobile phone, you didn't know what you could have done with a mobile phone,
yes.
Right? With, for example, with iPhone, what iPhone did was iPhone gave almost every user, every person in this world, an endpoint that can be reached, right? So now anyone can reach anyone because like most of the people that we know has a phone with them. So you can message them and that person, it will reach that person. It's kind of like you have a chip attached to your hand, your body, right? And that's an endpoint. So iPhone, Steve Jobs, right? He actually gave an endpoint to everyone, right? That's kind of what we are doing. We are actually giving a healthcare communication endpoint to our users, right? So now all of a sudden, everyone can be reached at any time, right? Before, the way it used to work was like the nurse is like taking care of patients, like in the rooms and things like that, and other things might be happening and they are unaware of, right? They would need to come back and check what's going on. So it's kind of, we call it the pulling the information. So
yes.
You need to go and pull the information. What we do is we actually push the information that is relevant to you at the time that you need it, right? And that basically takes care of that whole thing. I need to go check on that goes away, right? All of a sudden you can actually do other things, right? You get that so that's kind of what we did with it. And like I said, once you have it, what we are experiencing it, everyone loves it. Nobody wants to, it was like over my dead body. Nobody wants to take it away, right? That's kind of where we are. And because it makes it so easy, like I said, like if somebody takes away the mobile phone from you, right? What would you feel? The same thing, right? With them as well.
Right. So how, for example, if you're converting an existing system to a new one, there will be always resistance. So how did you overcome that point? And especially in a new product, new innovation is a tough challenge. People don't like changes.
Yeah. So typically, like I said, we go with large organizations who wants to make change, who wants to stand out from the crowd, from other similar organizations.
Yeah.
And once you implement, typically what they want to do is they want to actually say, okay, we have realizing that we have a communication problem. Everybody has a communication problem because it's a complex organization, right? You can always improve on communication. First one is realizing that. Once you realize that, the question is, okay, how do we solve it? And you can look at other options too. So you can look at like giving everybody just an old phone. You can do that, right? And be done with it. Or you can give them a platform or an application built specifically for healthcare, right? That's kind of where we come in. And typically it's a initiative, a hospital, the system-wide initiative, so that they want to bring in mobility into the hospital. And that's kind of where we actually come in. Right? So the change is actually hard initially, but the day one of go live is always interesting. The moment we actually go live, now everybody's like, wow, we love it. This is much, much easier than what we are used to. So it works very well.
Okay. In the clinical communication, the Banyan is now fully focused on the clinical communication platform. So where you must have already solving a lot of day-to-day operations, related problems. And what are those keys problems you're trying to solve and it is already solved? You are investing more and more focus on those areas. What could be those kind of operation issues?
Yeah, so the main problem with communication within, like, again, large organization, right? And especially in healthcare is finding the right person, right? So, for example, if you are using WhatsApp or Slack, I mean, you kind of know whom to contact. Okay, I want to contact Binu, right? By name, you know whom to contact. But think about a very large organization, you want to contact the product manager of something, right? So how do you do that, right? In using Teams or Slack or WhatsApp, right? You're going to ask somebody, or somebody you're going to ask them, hey, do you know the product manager? So, and you finally figure out who that is. So you already wasted so much time. So that's kind of what we take care of in a healthcare. You don't have time to waste, right? So
Correct.
The way we do that is like you can find the right person. So if you're a doctor looking for the nurse who is taking care of your patient, the way we do that is you can actually search by using your patient. So in the patient details, we actually tell you who the nurse is, right? So you don't need to know by name who the nurse is. You can just look at that, and you can actually start messaging or talking with that person. Now what happens is after a shift, that nurse changes and another nurse takes over. Same patient, different nurse, right? Now all of a sudden you're trying to talk to the previous nurse and he or she has gone home, right? But now you have continuity. So what we again provide is the concept of dynamic roles, where it's always the nurse who is taking care of my patient. It's not Mary or John or somebody, and that actually helps a lot, right? On top of that, when Mary goes home and John comes in and John wants to know what was going on, right? And typically what happens is a shift handover, like they need to kind of sync up with each other. So Mary cannot go home until John comes, right?
Correct.
But in our case, you have all the record of the conversations and everything. So you kind of already know what actually happened. And that
usually we have seen in a hospital, there is a 1 hour overlap between these staff.
Right. So that's one other thing, right? So you already have a lot.
They're forced to work an additional hour.
To actually do
losing 1 hour.
Yeah, to actually have the overlap. Yeah. And even that you miss a lot of things because you forgot to tell something important, right?
Yes.
And you can actually have the continuity here. So that's another thing. Then the modality of communication. So chat, like asynchronous chat versus calling, right? Calling is always synchronous. You're calling somebody to know exactly like now things. But chatting is much easier because it's asynchronous in nature. So you can, if you want something, you can just put a chat in there and forget about it and wait for it to come back. So that actually helps a lot. Right. Overall, what happens is what we see is like the convenience factor. Like it usually cuts down the time to do things significantly, right? So we call it 15 minutes to 15 seconds. So something that used to take you 15 minutes, whatever it is, right, will actually be 15 seconds because you are able to communicate with people. And we make it really easy to find people and communicate. We have so many features that makes it easy to find the right person you need. You can search by role. You can do the basic thing like find somebody by name. Obviously, you can add favorites and all the basic things. On top of that, you can search for people by their specialty, their role, their dynamic role. You happen to know the phone number, but not the last 4 digits, and you can do that. So all those kind of things. Then we have all the phone calling, voice or IP calling, regular cell calling, conference calling, three-way calling, group text, one-to-one chat or channels, all those features. They all come together to actually help you. On top of that, what we have is we integrate with alerting system. So if patient is connected to a telemetry unit, then you
bed switch,
bed switch or the nurse call system. And you are a nurse who is supposed to be taking care of the patient, you actually get the alert. So if patient wants to, sometimes the patient wants to get out of the bed, right? So you get an alert on your phone. You hear something and then it's on your pocket and you can see, okay, my patient is getting out of the bed or my patient wants medication. So those kind of things. So So we solve all those, and which regular communication tools cannot do, like WhatsApp and Teams and all. They are all very much focused on enterprise, very generic enterprise level communication. We are basically tailored for hospitals.
Right. So even I have noticed there are post-surgical wards. Their alerts are so critical.
Yeah.
And the communications platform like this is making a big impact.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And on top of that, you can actually set up something called broadcast groups. Like you can actually select like responders, like code responders. Like so, the people who are supposed to respond to a fire, or there is an accident. So who are so let's say an accident happened and somebody heard about, how do you alert the important people, right? The person in charge of VR, or the transporter. So you can create a group and you can send a broadcast to them saying that, hey, there was an accident that I just heard. Get ready. Without this, what do you do? So you need to call people one after the other. So
it's going to take a lot of time. It is also possible you won't get the right people in contact.
Yeah,
they may not be seen somewhere.
The person may not be maybe on leave, may not be there or at home, and you're trying to, who is covering for that person. So we have all those built in. If you are taking the time off, and then you can actually assign somebody else to cover you, and we will actually route the messages to that person. So.
All right. Great, excellent. And coming back to the new technology, because Banyan stands for the new technology, you are at the edge of the technology. And now is coming the question about the AI features.
Yeah.
So what AI features Banyan is included, and which is currently in planned, or is it in development? So what kind of healthcare version of Banyan AI you have?
Yeah. So we are starting to invest in AI. So we are trying to figure out what would be the feature that could be that can actually have the maximum impact. And that's not easy to figure. Everybody thinks that you know what to build and you can just go build it and people will line up to buy it. Yeah. That's not how software works, right? You need to experiment, and you need to actually start somewhere and keep experimenting with, and you need to work with your users, and you work with that, and after a while a feature would click, and that's kind of it's always an evolution, right? It's not like you know exactly what to build. So that's kind of where we are. So we are investing in a lot of AI capabilities right now, and trying to see what could actually benefit our users the most. There are some obvious ones. So we are an endpoint. So like I said, the advantage we have is we have direct access to the users, so we can actually give them and they can interact with us. So obviously one of the obvious one is chatbot. So we are building chatbots where you can actually chat with the bot, and for example, opening a service ticket. You see something equipment is broken and you want to actually call repair. Right now, typically, it's like you need to go to a service, ticketing system. You need to go through the thing and type in all the details. So what we are trying to do is like, can you just type, or let's just say something to that? Hey, I have a IV pump that is broken. Can somebody come and fix it? And what we can do behind the scenes is, IV pump. That means this is the department. So we kind of know that, right? This is the department that should handle IV pump, and we can actually send a message or a voicemail or whatever to that person, right? And since we know where the users are, we can actually tell them which unit the IV pump is broken, right? Typically in the ticketing system, you need to enter all those, which hospital, which unit, so all those are taken care of. So that's one of the things we are looking. And on top of that, finding, again, like going back to finding the people. So if you're a doctor, like if you want to find the nurse who is taking care of a specific patient, right now you need to click and go through it. So instead of that, maybe you can just ask, right? Hey, connect me to the nurse who is taking care of this patient of mine. Right. And it will just call that person. So that's where we are investing right now. And there are other things in pipeline. We are actually going to explore workflow engines to going back to, can we make the discharge faster, right? It's still a very complex workflow. So we are going to see whether we can implement a AI-driven workflow engine. So that's something that we are exploring right now. And there are like I said, there are many more experiments, innovations in the pipeline that we need to try out and see what actually makes sense.
Okay. And what make complex in building such an AI model? Because you need data and healthcare data is protected.
Yeah.
And that is very difficult place in ML or any learning system should be. So how is actually you're actually solving?
So we are in a very good place because we have a lot. This is our second system, so we already have access to a lot of data from our parent company, HCA being our parent company. So we have access to the patient data. We have access to our own data that's been sitting there, right? I mean, we've been in deployed for more than 10 years. So we have collected a lot of data. So we have chat history and things like that we can rely on. Although we don't know whether we want to build our own LLMs and things like that, we may not need to, because we are more of a communication system rather than a patient data system. So we may not even need that, but that's something that we need to look at.
Okay.
But we have a huge advantage being part of HCA. No question about that.
So for the fresh start company, without this data, they can't even think about this.
Exactly, yeah. And the patient data is very much protected. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Coming back to the same point, the protection and the privacy of the patient. So yes, it's already HIPAA compliant and it qualifies all the standard. Otherwise, you won't even exist.
Yeah.
All right. So now we are getting into new markets, especially on Middle East and some Southeast Asia countries where these kind of complaints are still coming into picture. They're trying to copy from US.
Yeah.
So still in those environments, how do you define your security standard? Is it already ready for future of all these expansions, or what could be the?
So we see, typically in software engineering, the focus is to complete the code, right? How do you actually get the code done and deploy, right? But healthcare is a little bit different. You need to have your security. It's hard to learn that. You learn the hard way without doing it. And then you learn that you have to have security built into your day-to-day, coding practice. It cannot be an afterthought. That's kind of what we learned. And that's what we do now. Again, like I said, we didn't do that initially, right? Initially, the focus was to get the code out there, right? And then we learned, okay, getting the code out there is not enough in healthcare. So we already have everything in place to make sure that what comes out or what the product comes out of our company is fully secure, right? We have security built into our development process throughout. We have security thought as the first thing when we are building infrastructure. So everything is around that. We have our own chief security officer who is overseeing security aspects of not only the product but the company and any other companies that we actually do business with. So it's all in place. And other countries are not any different. There is nothing different about having security. It's the same thing. And even if there are no complaints, I would still encourage people to think about security in your product, when you're building product, because it could actually help you, right? And it would actually, although it may seem like a waste of time, it would actually reward you at the very end. So even if there's no complaints, I would still actually advise for that.
Yeah, security is more like a practice.
It should be a practice, yeah.
Yes.
It should definitely be a practice, yeah. But don't take it overboard. You don't need to go crazy with it. So don't just close all the doors because you are so secure. The trick is to how do you keep the doors open but still be secure. That's the trick. So.
Yes, allow only the right amount of information to those who need it. Yes, okay, exactly. So right, and the last thing. So now you have been almost 25 plus years in the healthcare alone, and you might have a lot of learning and you have covered a lot of land. And what would be your advice for the future startups or entrepreneurs who are investing on healthcare?
So I always say, we always think as engineers, you build the product inside an office. I would say you build the product outside, right? You can code inside, but the product, the product is built outside. So what that means is, as soon as you have don't keep building, right? That's the stupidest thing anyone can do. As soon as you think you have 50% ready, try to go live. because that will save you. What you thought that you are solving the right problem, you will be like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. You will be very much surprised once you go out there and try it. And that should be your number one priority. Don't try to just keep adding features. Oh, if only one more feature I can add, then I'll be all set to go live. Don't do that. Try to go live as soon as possible. Fail fast, because fail fast would lead to success, right? That's kind of what I learned. Like I said, a product is built out there, not inside your office.
See, if you fail fast, you are burning less money.
Oh, and less money too, obviously.
Yes.
Because I'm telling you, nobody can come up with the right solution ever the first try. It never works. That's kind of what waterfall project method used to do, and almost all of them failed because of that. And that's the principle of Agile too. But Agile only applies to development process. Apply Agile to your business as well, and that would actually help you.
Yes, exactly. All right. Thank you, Saji. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being us. Thank you.
Thank you, Binu.
Bye.